We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast. I am your host on this magical mystery tour we call Ole Miss Fandom, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the POMcast from the palatial Central Florida studios. Today's show, we're going to talk about why the upcoming capital campaign is probably the most important in Ole Miss history. I'll tell you why. But before we get into that, I do want to tell you about the Vault Society. It's the big push from the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation. It's a 5-year commitment of support. Membership starts at $5,000 a year, and there's a benefit chart on the site. We'll give you that address in just a second. But I do want to tell you that all gifts to Ole Miss between now and June 30th, that's less than a week away, will receive triple points. Red points are non-deductible and go towards priority seating. Blue points are 90% tax deductible and go towards parking and non-home ticketed games. That'd be postseason, bowl games, neutral site. We have a good example of that coming up on Labor Day. If you have any questions about it, go to give2athletics.com. Again, that is give2athletics.com. We're basically, as a podcast, available everywhere. You can catch us on Twitter at @TheStephenWillis and at The Rebel Walk. You can catch us on Facebook at POMcast, POMcast, or The Rebel Walk. You can catch us on YouTube at positivelyolemiss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. That'll be important for you, very much so. And you can catch us on Twitch at positivelyolemiss, all one word. We're on audio. Also, we don't really pimp it or do anything like that. But we're on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. We're also on several smaller podcatchers, but if we named them all, we'd be here all day. It's only a 30-minute show. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the POMcast. I, like I said before, am Stephen Willis, and I do want to tell you there's a capital campaign that's supposed to launch sometime this fall. And with what was decided at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court was decided that no limits can be placed on educational benefits by the NCAA. It was a unanimous ruling. And they also, during their decision, let the NCAA know that while this is a narrow ruling, if a direct challenge to their antitrust standing, it's not going to look well for them. And it's basically going to be the end of amateur athletics as soon as that case comes through. So basically, the clock is ticking on amateurism right now. We have 4 or 5 years. This is not the time to be regressive. This is not the time to want things the way they were. You enjoyed it the way it was. This is not the time for that, because all that's going to happen is you're going to lose it, and you're going to be poorly set up for the new wave of college athletics in the United States. Now, college athletics aren't going anywhere. People that talk about this being the death of college athletics, they don't really know what they're talking about. Schools are not willing to give up over $100 million plus of revenue based on one decision. They're not just going to say, nope, it's not worth it, because they're all just making a windfall of profits. It's going to hurt schools that are paying $10 million to a head coach. See Alabama. It's going to help schools like Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin at this moment, we don't know exactly what his contract is, but it's somewhere probably in the threes, I would imagine. Mike Leach is making 5 down in Starkville. But we have a capital campaign set to come up this afternoon. It's a beautification. It's about the locker room. It's about the west side of the stadium. All stuff that is needed to be done for a very long time. This is probably the last capital campaign that you will see. This will be the end of the arms race that you will see in college athletics, because those resources are going to be reallocated to other places. And this is probably going to cause it to shrink down, and it's going to make college athletics, or high dollar college athletics, be what it is. I'm of the opinion that honestly a player should just go and play football and not worry about class, because this is a vocational society about professional football. And there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, a lot of those guys aren't going to go to the NFL. Well, make the scholarship continuous, to where if they don't, they can just go to school. No sense in splitting your life up. Do the football thing. It doesn't work out. Do the school thing. That's the easiest solution to this. But like I said, with a capital campaign, the money is not going to be there to just overly willy-nilly make these facilities into the next level facilities that we have been seeing over the past 3 or 4 years. So, like I said, this is not the time to be regressive. The sooner we can do this, the sooner we can move on and start banking for the new reality that is college athletics. And we will be in a better place because of it whenever it happens. There are going to be several schools that are playing catch up based on the decision of this new world of college athletics. Let's embrace it. Let's move forward. Let's be an early adopter on this to position ourselves to be in better shape than other schools that are fighting this. Because there are going to be several schools and people that are very regressive about this. And there's people listening to this right now saying they want it the way it was. Well, that is just not a choice. You can't really go back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, unfortunately. So this new reality is going to happen. The clock is ticking. We have 4 or 5 years to get our facilities and everything up to where we want them to be, to prepare for this new world where compensation has to go to athletes. Now, this is probably going to kill non-revenue sports. I mean, it just is, because once it becomes a business and it's acknowledged as a business, it's going to be treated like a business. And there's not going to be room for the non-revenue athletes. There'll probably be some Title IX that has to go. There probably going to be a women's basketball team, a women's softball team, a women's soccer team to go with football and basketball, and in some places baseball. Because this is the other side of the coin on this. This grow the game that the NCAA has been doing is about to get thrown out the window. Because there are several places in the Pac-12. The Big 12 want to do away with it altogether. The MAC would love to do away with it altogether. College baseball. And it's going to become a very pocketed thing between the ACC, Big 12, and SEC. It's going to devalue the tournament. It's going to devalue the national championship. It's unfortunately where we are. I mean, that's a good way to put it. Unfortunately, that's where we are at the moment. But for the next 5 years, it's going to be business as usual. And that is assuming that there's not a case get up to the Supreme Court sooner. Now, for people that love Ole Miss, that want Ole Miss to succeed, that just want Ole Miss to be represented in a good light, and like 90% of the fan base out there. Like I said, it's not the time to be regressive and pine about the way things used to be. It's about setting yourself up for success in this coming new world of college athletics. Being ahead. Keith Carter and all the coaches and everybody's doing it. They probably have their eye on what's going on, but they're going to have to be so reactive of what's going on now that they're probably going to be a little bit late to the party whenever it happens. That is just the curse of being in the bureaucracy of college athletics. You can't do anything until you can do it, and for them it starts on the day that they can do it. They're not really going to plan for something they can do in the future. It's very, very reactive. But we can help them plan by nailing this capital campaign and getting our facilities where we want them to be. And make it a little bit easier when it comes time to make those decisions that this has already been done. This is something that needed to happen. This is already done. That will help us whenever the transition happens. Now, who knows what it's going to look like? We know it's going to look like something, and we know it's going to change the face of recruiting, period, all across the world. The moment they can't really limit compensation, educational and non-educational, to athletes, this is a different world. This is a different thing. And we need to be ready for that different thing. We need to be, all of our pieces are in place for when that different thing comes down, so we're able to jump. So we don't have to do all these things at the last minute right before it happens. Because that kind of procrastination would assume that the next 40 years of Ole Miss would look like the last 40 years. Guaranteed. We're a small state. We're a poor state. I understand that. But we have a chance, with our population being single-minded, focused to do something, to really react on this one. To really make some hay. Do what you can. I joined the M Club yesterday to try and help out. That was one path for me. But do what you can. Ride around with those UMA stickers or whatever you can do. Do what you can. Help out on this capital campaign when it's announced, however you can. It is the most important capital campaign in Ole Miss history. This is the one that is going to set us up, because after this is over, there's a good chance that this is going to freeze. And this is the level that our facilities are going to be in for the next 25, 30 years. While we deal with this transition to college sports and what it looks like. This capital campaign is singularly important and needed. And will allow us to recruit better once it's there. It will allow us to handle things quicker without doing it, other schools are having to take steps. It'll make us more lean. It'll make us more efficient. Otherwise, you're just saying we're okay with Ole Miss the way it is. We just want to yell about coaches and do whatever we do, but there's no hard work that needs to be done behind the scenes. Because this is coming. This is legit. Alabama's preparing for it. LSU's preparing for it. Texas A&M, with all that oil money, is preparing for it. We need to put us in the best position to be successful. And that'll start with this capital campaign. Doing what you need to do for this. And I'm just talking to people that desperately want a winner to be had in Ole Miss sports. They want to root for a winner. They've, like me, 76. The closest they came was the playoff ranking in 2014. Ole Miss failed in the late 60s, early 70s. They did that poorly. And that resulted in 40 years basically in the desert. We finally started getting ourselves to where we need to be, and the NCAA crashed down on us because we have players sleeping on a couch in a loaner car that's out. I mean, apparently we could have gotten all the money from a children's cancer charity, but that's beside the point. We want to set Ole Miss up for success, and this is the best way to happen. One of the few gifts that I have are the ability to see trends coming down the line. That's why I'm in this position. Is because as soon as COVID happened last year, all of a sudden I put down a game plan to get to right here. And I did it. That includes getting rid of a job, getting rid of debt, paying cash for a house, the whole 9 yards. Being completely debt-free. That everything was a plan that was built at the beginning of COVID. So I am telling you what I see. And that is that within 4 or 5 years, and this amateurism model going away, because it's going away. The court decision this week proves that that's going to happen. We've got that length of time. We've got a little bit of pad room to remake facilities and set us up to be in a better position to compete in the future. Absolutely. Because once this happens, and those monetary resources have to be allocated to other places, because that will happen as well, it's going to stop this facility's arm race, and it's going to hurt us in recruiting. You're going to see teams basically the recruiting and retention department. It's already started with one-time transfer fee, or one-time transfer, name, image, and likeness, and the possible end of the amateurism model as we know it. This turbulent summer, right on the heels of COVID, will determine Ole Miss's future. And our future starts with this capital campaign. This is our opportunity to get all this done, to change all this, to do what needs to be done, and be ready to come out on the other side lean and mean and ready to fight. And that goes for football, that goes for basketball, and that goes for baseball. Period. I do feel for the non-rev sports that are probably going to go away on account of this. They're going to have to change rules based on attendance and things like that. That's all going to go away. The remaking of the top division of NCAA football or whatever is going to look completely different. They're talking about conference realignment. This could be divisional realignment. You can see something like North Dakota State going up, and going down on the other side could be someplace like Kansas. I know it sounds weird, but this is going to be such a major game changer. If we want to keep going, we need to prepare now. Period. Because if we don't do that, we're in trouble, and we're going to be behind the 8 ball from now until eternity. It's guaranteeing another 50 years. But this is the opportunity where we can be forward thinking and take care of facilities and things to get ready for all this to happen. To be a couple of steps ahead. If we're a couple of steps ahead, we're probably going to move into the new way that college football looks or college sports looks in a much better way. But it starts right here. Capital campaign. So, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we are going to talk I don't know, a little bit about the 1988 Alabama game and the 2013 LSU game and why they didn't make the list in Rebel rankings. Stick around. All right, going to do a little test real quick. Bear with me. I just want to see if this goes away. And by doing this, but welcome back to the POMcast. I do want to tell you a little bit about the Rebel Walk, the rebelwalk.com. They do a fantastic job. Evie and her staff provide a subscriber level experience for no money. All that it costs you is your time. And boy, oh boy, is it worth it. So go on over to the rebelwalk.com today. That is the rebelwalk.com today. And get a comprehensive view of Ole Miss sports. Largest staff, I think, that's covering Ole Miss currently. So it's pretty impressive. We're also going to try again. Maybe the technology issues are gone. Who knows? We'll find out tonight. The Rebel Walk recruiting show with Leanne Herring. We're working on that to get that done. I think tomorrow night, Friday night, so early next week, you should actually see it. We're going to do an Alabama preview with, I think, Jake somebody. Forget his name. From one of the Alabama podcasts. So that should be pretty good. So we got a bunch of stuff coming up. This is list season. And being list season, you kind of run out of stuff to talk about. We don't want to break down, the Louisville defense, by the way, which is fairly good. Brian Brown does a fantastic job. We have a preview down there with Cameron Teague talking all about Louisville football. And offensively, you can look for Malik Cunningham, which they refer to as a Lamar Jackson light. But he had a problem last year turning over the football. He could be a problem if he's not going to turn over the football. If he's going to play it straight up, he could be a problem, especially with our defense. Because I expect our defense to be, although improved, I think, you're looking at a 70 to 80 level defense as opposed to 126. So instead of being towards the bottom, they're towards the middle, but still not necessarily a great defense. But I expect them to be to manage explosive plays and turnovers, which will be important for this offense because it functions by stealing possessions. We go over that, and we will go over that several times in the next couple of weeks. All right, Rebel Rankings honorable mention. I want to tell you why the two today did not make the list. First of all, 1988 Alabama. I think that game, there were 0 yards passing by Alabama. That was the brick through the Bill Curry's window game. I think it was 22-0. They ran Sean Sykes twice on a trap play, scored a touchdown, ended up winning the game. I don't know if it was 20, but either way, they put it away in a big run. And the reason that didn't really make the list as most important upsets, we need to remember, most important, is it didn't really lead to anything. I mean, 89 was fine. But that was John Darnell. I mean, in the Alabama game in 1988 was Mark Young. How you doing, Mark? And 90 became the Gator Bowl. I think 91 became the Gator Bowl. 92 became the Liberty Bowl. And 93 they went on probation and basically killed the program. And that short window of flare-up is probably why they didn't make the list. Just because It happened right on the tail end. Now, it started, with the 89 Liberty Bowl and all that going through. I mean, the blowout to Michigan was on there as well, but it started all that. But it resulted in that probation and such a negative thing. So it didn't really make that list. I enjoyed watching that game. I was 12 years old at the time. Joe Mickles, Facebook friend, by the way. Sean Sykes. Those guys, did a fantastic job. This was a team that was coming off probation, believe it or not, in 87 for something that happened earlier. In 86, they had gone back to the Independence Bowl and beat Texas Tech. So it was kind of in a purgatory period of Ole Miss sports. And because of that, it's not really going to pop up in the most important range. We're also going to look at 2013 LSU. Now, you're thinking, why didn't that pop up on the important range? Because that led directly into the Alabama game, which led into everything. And, that season was the Music City Bowl and the win over Georgia Tech and all of that. Why didn't that make the list? And the reason being, I think, is just public and fan perception, national perception after the Alabama game. The reports after the LSU game were not, we have arrived. It was, they still have a long way to go. Okay, they beat LSU. When we beat Alabama, it was like we were here. We were the cover of Sports Illustrated. So that game genuinely overshadows it. Now, I can see exactly why that year, the win over LSU, the win over Texas, I can see how it was a progression to where you want it to be. I absolutely see that. But those games are going to be rendered mute by that Alabama win. And that win is such a shining star above the hill. Is a very Christmas star that it kind of makes everything else look softer. It's a weird situation. I mean, you could go back to the Feed Moncrief game of 2012. That wasn't really an upset, but that's what started everything building. 2013 continued through. And then 2014 with the 7-0 start, everything was going really well. Injuries derailed that team, or it could have been quite special. It was one of those situations, not necessarily where Ole Miss was an early adopter of an offense, but they were doing the things that the rules were in place could maximize. And after those rule changes were made, then the offenses had to change a little bit, and that kind of hurt Hugh Freeze. And now Hugh Freeze is going down this Gus Malzahn trail at Liberty. We have to see where it ends up, but he's doing a good job out there. I'm not saying he's not doing a good job, but after Malik Willis, what's next? And honestly, what was Gus Malzahn thinking not playing Malik Willis? That's crazy. That was legit crazy. But those are why. Sorry about that. That is why those two games are not on the list. They join the 52 Maryland game and the 77 Notre Dame game. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, that list will be revealed. Tune in for that. I'm okay with you disagreeing. Just put a comment below the video and tell me why you disagree with it. It doesn't matter if we disagree on a subject, but these are my picks. And being my picks is, it's kind of interesting to see. And nobody else is doing anything like this, especially during list season, because they don't have the time to do it. One of the benefits of having a job like this is the flexibility to do what I want and not be beholden to some 70-year-old media trope going on. I can kind of do things the way I want to do them. So we're going to get out of here. It looks like it's about 30 minutes anyway. We're going to get out of here. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Tomorrow we will come back with more POMcast. Rebel rankings come out tomorrow as well. Hopefully we'll have a Rebel Walk recruiting show for you as well. But until then, I'm Stephen Willis. Hotty toddy.